I've got some Jack and some Pepsi. The Pepsi's old, and I needed extra Jack to make sure that the taste from the old Pepsi went away. So we're just hanging out. And what are we talking about today?
We are talking about, well, I think we have some exciting stuff here today. We got some new stuff for everybody, a couple of new things. And we're doing a little bit of a recap of this whole brand strategy series.
Yeah, we've been doing this series now for I'm not sure how many weeks, probably almost 10 now, and we've talked all about brand strategy. We've gone into a wide range of topics, and it's really about how do you develop that brand that differentiates you, identifies who your best target audience is, and all these different pieces. We've dove deep over the last X number of episodes to really get into that. And this is kind of our final hurrah, bringing it all together, talking about what, all the different pieces.
For sure. So we're going to dive in and kind of recap, talk about everything here, kind of go over the past, 10 weeks or so of what we've covered. But we also have a couple of things that are new, that we have a brand strategy guidebook that's now available for download, and we're going to plug that in so you can download it from wherever you're watching this from.
Yeah, the cool thing is we took everything that we've been doing in these last 10 episodes, we put it into this awesome little guidebook that actually even shows visualizations of how you would go through some of the exercises to create your brand strategy. So it really gives a ton of it away. Yeah. It's pretty awesome. It's like 40 pages, but it's not overwhelming. It's not like a white paper where there's a ton of text. What we've done is really make it simple. It's a guidebook. You can kind of flow through it, but it will really help you get together on brand strategy and figure out some of the tactics that you might want to take.
And so we will have that link available for you guys to download. As Andy said, it's a guidebook, kind of walks you through everything we've covered. So if you want to work at it at your own pace, it's great for that. The other thing is we have a brand strategy masterclass coming up on the 21st. And I think one of the cool things about this, Andy, is that it's going to be done, we talked about doing it on site, and then we thought, why limit it by geography?
Right.
So we're making it available to anyone, anywhere. We have people that have been tuning in, watching the show, that are really interested in working deeper. And so it is going to be a workshop style event, but we're going to do it virtual. So we'll do it through like a Zoom conference where people will be able to tune in, ask questions. It's limited to 10 people.
Yeah.
So it's very much going to be hands-on. It still has kind of workshop format.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a workbook.
Yep.
We really want to walk people through it and take a couple moments for people after we discuss a certain part to actually walk through it themselves, be able to ask some questions. So it'll be really interactive, like we're in a personal hands-on session, but we're doing it virtually because we work with clients all over the country, all over the world now, and we just think that it would be better to provide that access, but then keep it limited. So we've only got a group that we can really work with and go through this process.
Yeah, so if you like what we've covered, check it out. Again, the link for that will also be available. Here, we'll put it underneath the video. If you're watching live, it's not there yet, but we'll have it in a few minutes once we wrap up. But with that all being said, where's the starting point of all of this? Like, when we decided to do this series, we wanted to do brand. Why is that so important?
Yeah, brand is one of my favorite topics. It really is, because the thing that we talk about is that people bring us in to drive leads and to grow their business, and there are a couple core tenets to any business, and I think two of them are, one, definitely your culture, which we haven't talked about a ton, but there are some huge pieces to culture, and I'm such a huge fan in culture of developing that as a great foundational tool, because things like your core values determine who are the people that are on the bus. Do you have the right people? And so if you have the right core values and you're judging the people that you're looking at hiring against those, you're really making sure you're bringing on a team that can be easily aligned, work well together, and really match the direction of the business. The other elements of culture are typically vision and mission. Vision, where are we going in the future, and making that accomplishable, and then mission, what do we have to do every day to hit our vision? And then one of my other favorite ones, BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. Yep. And so that culture piece is one of those foundation, but the other one is brand. And brand is really about how do we talk to the outside world about who we are, who we're going after, what makes us different, kind of that who, what, why, and how of our business. And once we have the culture and brand as those core elements, then we can really look at how do we implement marketing and sales and customer experience, which is what people really want at the end of the day. Is they want to get leads through marketing, they want to close more sales, and they want to create a great customer experience for retention and referrals. But I don't believe that you can do those three things well until you've really developed culture and brand. And that's how we got here, is that, you know, a lot of our clients look for marketing, but we push them back and say, look, if you haven't developed this fantastic brand yet, we're not ready to get into these other things to be most effective.
Yeah, and good example would be earlier in the week we had a call with a prospect.
Right.
We work with a lot of software companies. We work in the tech space with consultants and development companies, and we spoke with somebody who, they looked like they had a nice business. They were doing pretty well, but they didn't have the consistency of incoming leads and opportunities, and that's common, right? In the tech world has become there's so many companies out there. It's very competitive, and so you have to define what makes you unique, and that's where this person said this. He's like, I can't really tell you what that is, and they were going through some work with their brand, and we told them like that was critical to putting any type of marketing game plan together. They first have to define those elements.
Well, you want your marketing to be effective. You're going to go out there and you're going to present ads, and you're going to have this website that you're trying to drive conversion, get the most people to take action. What do you need to make sure that you're communicating? Why people should do business with you.
Yeah.
And so, that's the brand. And so many people want to just jump into the activity piece. They just want to say, let's throw out some ads, let's build a couple landing pages. That's what it means to do lead generation. And that's great, but if you haven't figured out those core pieces we're talking about, how are you going to truly get someone to be inspired, convinced, convey what makes you different, and then ultimately get them to convert? And so I think for this company, one of their other challenges where they said, look, we look across our competitors and those value propositions, what makes them different, are all the same. And I think that's, I hate to say it, but that's the easy way out. That's not true.
Yeah.
I think that no matter what type of company you are, there are things that make you different, and it's either, you really haven't defined them well, you haven't taken some risk to basically say, okay, we are going to lean on this one thing within our business, like a focus on an industry or a specific solution, or, you really haven't figured out how to articulate this stuff well enough yet. And to me, that's a big piece, is even if you've defined something that might be similar to other people, like customer service, you can articulate that and prove it and have aspirations toward it that make you so different than anyone else in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And so it's an easy excuse to say, hey, all these companies like me are the same, but it's not true. It just takes the process we've gone through in these shows, which is logical structure to say, who do we target? What are our buying factors for our audience? How do we evaluate those compared to competitors? All these different pieces. You can come up with those truly unique factors.
Yeah, so can we just, to make it easy, and this sounds like a lot of work, I just want it to be simple. Can I just go to the C-suite at the company I'm working at, if I'm running the marketing team, and just say, hey man, what makes us different?
Yeah.
Can't I just do that? Just cut to the chase?
Yeah, and that's what happens a lot of times too, and we've seen that is, companies will say, oh, we figured that out. And you ask how, and they say, well, sat down with the owner, and the owner says, this is what makes us different. Mm-hmm. And I think that's intriguing. I am by no means doubting the knowledge and capability of a founder and their understanding of the industry, but they can often be, forest for the trees. That they're so deep in their business, so deep in their industry, that sometimes they're not looking at that high level. Or they haven't seen the full breadth of what the industry really brings. Or my biggest one is confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Is that they've come to the marketplace, and because of their background and their knowledge, they take their business out there and they say, this is what makes us different, and the one or two customers or X number of customers they've got to bring on resonate with that, and they've kind of got that confirmation bias that worked, but that's not really a scalable model. And so it's really, I think these founders are smart, and when we go through brand strategy, we leverage them significantly in the process, but you still have to break it out in an unbiased, logical way to make sure that you're getting to the right answer rather than just assuming what you think the right answer is.
And I think some of the danger in just going with what might be confirmation bias is you might be missing out on a lot of opportunity because you might have talked to one or two, people who act as your anecdotal evidence, but it's not really representative of how you're seen out there, and you could be missing out on a ton of opportunity 100%. Because you think you're only being seen as being good at this or that, and there's all this other stuff. Sometimes those founders, again, it's not that they don't know their business or don't have good intentions, it's they don't realize that they're so close to things, that there are things their business does really well, that to them is just like such a part of like the culture of the nature, that they don't realize that if they slowed down and articulated that, their customers are like, wow, that's incredible, but to them it's just, they're so ingrained in them.
Yeah, and I think most founders, when they're faced with that knowledge, like someone says, look, you are too ingrained in this, most are self-actualized enough to step back and say, okay, I mean, I know my business, I know my customers, I know my position, but there is something bigger out there. And I think what we talked about the other day is also interesting, that, brand and business strategy have this connection, and some of the companies that we work with are struggling on really that foundational business strategy. How are we going to scale and grow? And it takes some different approaches and tactics and thought processes to think about how are you going to narrow your market and really expand the business, rather than these foundational strategies that maybe constrain your growth, or you've hit that plateau of growth. And so it's really about, what is that business strategy? But some of these elements of brand are influencers to that core business strategy that can actually take you beyond the plateau.
Yeah. There's a lot to it. The brand is just tied to so much. When I think about this, a lot of times people, we've said a few times, people tend to think of brand and they think of just like, the visual identity, so the logo and, color palette and fonts and that kind of stuff. And that's an element. But, what I've been trying to think about is how would this play out if I were to use an analogy? So I think there's a lot of sales people out there that they take all the activity, they follow the steps. So let's say that's equivalent to the marketing strategy, right? They're out there networking, they're cold calling, they're reaching out, they're doing all the right activities, but the way they carry themselves kind of turn people off a little bit. They're a little too over the top. They're too. It's kind of the personality that goes along with that. People don't feel the sense of connection with them. So the kind of the brand essence is missing there.
Yeah.
I think that is a way that people can look at it where they understand that it's tied to those results.
Yeah.
So you can run marketing campaigns all day, but if those ads are just hitting you,
have the wrong personality.
Yeah, and you don't feel good about them.
Yeah.
You don't gravitate to them, and you don't have that experience as you go through that funnel where you're getting to know, like, and trust. You're just not going to have the same results. It's as simple as that. I think we all know, we've all met that person who's hit you up, that sales rep that's just, man, you're like, God bless them for their, how persistent they are, but wow, I really just leave me alone, because they haven't taken the time to grow that relationship. And I think brand helps accelerate that because it shows what's different, what's unique, paints that picture, creates some emotional connection. And
that's the thing. I think your point is that brand is something that people have the wrong idea of what it is. And it's because everybody says, what's the value of Nike's brand, or what do you think of Nike's brand? And it's the first thing that comes to your mind is, the logo and the familiarity of the logo. Yeah. But that's not what it is. It's a lot more than that. It's their personality. It's their messages to the marketplace about what they believe and why they're different than some other brand. And it's all these different elements that are just so much more. And I think that's what people need to get in their head is the word brand. Take that aside. What we're really talking about is your strategy to the marketplace to communicate and articulate who, why, what of your company, and why people should buy, who you are, how do you actually get things done, all these different pieces. That's what we're trying to do, is develop a strategy behind what are these messages, what are these ideas, what are these looks and feels and sounds that articulate why someone should do business with us.
So do you think of brands, a lot of times people that need some work with their brand are the ones that say, well, we kind of like, we can do, we could solve that problem for everybody. Something that I think a lot of people get a little nervous about is the idea of like pissing some people off, being divisive, and we talk about that, the flag in the ground, and kind of, but you mentioned Nike, right? And so I won't even get into the two sides involved, right? But the whole stand for something.
Right.
They've truly done that. They've made a lot of people mad, but they've probably also got a lot of people more committed to their brand. That's a scary proposition when you're thinking about making a decision for your business. So how do you go about that? Like, how do you take your brand and go in on something that you either believe in or you want to stand for?
Yeah, and we've talked about that topic a couple of times now, where it really is about this idea that you're gonna be, you need to be a little bit polarizing to capture market, because you want some people to absolutely love you, and they're not going to do that if you're mediocre, middle of the road. But what that means is you may turn some other people off, and that could be something like focusing in on an industry like we talk about. You get some people that absolutely love you and think, wow, that's the perfect one, but you're turning others away. You may do that in other senses of what you believe from a political perspective. We've seen people that their business is foundational on having some sort of religious connection. We've seen others where it's a belief in how they approach projects or what their product means to the world, that for one company it means this, but a similar product for another company can mean something different. And so I think there is that idea of that you have to develop some sort of I don't want to say polarization, but you really have to go in depth in something enough that you are turning some people away. But it is such a huge risk. That's the biggest thing that we run into, you and I, as we talk to potential clients, is that they're afraid to take that risk.
Would it be fair enough to say that you can almost go follow your passion if you don't know where else to start?
That's an interesting question. So I'm going to explain something that I was sitting and talking to another business owner friend of mine, because he was thinking about his business, and he actually had come in with a partner, and they had built this business, and the partner had the passion for the industry, and he was more the operations guy. They ended up splitting up, and now he's got this business that he's run for a number of years. He's trying to figure out how to scale and grow, but it's not really his area. And so this is going to get really high level, but I was talking with him and explaining how I was looking at, I don't know if you know EQ, IQ. So emotional quotient, intelligence quotient. On one you have more of this emotional side to your personality, where you take things a little bit probably more personally, they're more in depth, just the way you process stuff, versus the IQ where you're much more logical and you make decisions. I'm much more on the IQ side, and this person's actually much more on the EQ side. And the interesting thing that I was trying to talk through with him was, I believe that there's this thing that if you're on the IQ side, you can be in a business that you're passionate about, as well as businesses you have no passion to. And I've seen other entrepreneurs like that, where they say to me, oh, I have no interest in this industry, I'm here to watch it scale, I want this business to make me money, but they tend to be more on the IQ side. And so that IQ person, the further you go to that side, I think the wider breadth you can have in having a business that's either passion or wealth generation. But if you are a person that's more on the EQ side, you're more limited, because you hit a point where you get away from passion and more into just it about being wealth and not passion, and that EQ of your personality kicks in where you can't be satisfied, and it's hard for you to, look at that business objectively and in the right way because you've got too much emotion in the way you make decisions. And so I find it really interesting that, when you have founders or leaders that are more on that EQ side, they, I think, have to be more matched up with businesses that they have passion towards and that they have understanding and they really want to grow. That brings in its own complications about being too deep in it versus the logical side. But I think it's interesting that those IQ people, they probably could be more passionate if they are in a or more successful if they're in a passionate business.
Sure.
But I also think they can extend all the ways to the pure wealth generation type of business.
That's pretty fascinating.
Random thing, but yeah, I was sitting talking with him and we just kind of came up with that concept.
No, that's pretty cool. So I would guess then, so let's say someone is more on the EQ side of things and they are stuck in a business, they're not necessarily like passionate about the industry or whatnot. I guess where I was going with it was along those lines, but can I make part of the brand be something that maybe we're obsessive about data and conversion?
Right.
And so that I'm really into, but all this stuff we do, whatever, Andy, I'll do it if you want me to, but that's something that we say, okay, part of our brand is that this is really something that makes us unique and different, and we're going to really focus on it. So could you take an element like that makes that point of differentiation?
I definitely think so. I mean, I am a big believer, you know our core values. It's something that our core values for the company and the people that we have here, they're important to me because they actually come out of things that I think reflect my own personality. And so, when I bring people on and I find people that meet those core values, it reflects well with me and we tend to get along. I think the same thing in business, if you can take that element of what's something about you, especially as a founder, and even if you're not passionate about every aspect, if you can find that piece and make it a centerpiece, that could be an intriguing part of developing that unique brand proposition.
Yeah, that's cool. So then I love the whole piece on the core values and I'm a big fan of that because that's kind of what got me really sold about coming here and working with you. Is I looked at those, core values and I was like, those, I love them. And that's what you guys are about. Then let's go. How does brand, because these things all ultimately play 100%. Together. It's a big piece of that. So we haven't talked much about the culture side. I guess this is a chance for you because I think you have some really interesting thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about culture with clients all the time, and we've helped develop value propositions. I actually have some fun exercises to do that. Mm-hmm. And I'll just give one away. I think as an example, I love the future headline. You think about in 5 or 10 years, write a headline and an article about your business. And you could pull key things out of that. The other is define a day in the life of your business 10 years from now or 5 years from now. And for me, it's like I come off of a plane from an international trip with my family that we had just been doing business with. I come into the office and I walk around and I see, people getting stuff done, and I can go and do what I need and know that our team's creating great stuff. And I think about that story in my head in 5 years, and what it tells me is I want to have a global business. I want my family to be important. I want to make sure that I'm hiring people that are, good at what they do and can do it on their own, that are self-driven. And so it's interesting how you can take something like your headline and your article and your day in a life and pull things out that actually show those core values of what you want to be as a company. So that's kind of how we go through some of that process of developing core values. But to your question, how does it fit together? Core values, culture, those different things are truly about the heart of the business and the direction of the business and the people that are on the bus. And of course those things are going to impact brand. If you don't truly understand who you are as a company and where you want to go, what is that vision for 5 years or 10 years down the road? How are we going to live every day to accomplish that? What are the types of people that we want here? And if they don't match that, they need to leave. They need to get off the bus, and it needs to be that simple. That is a driver towards then how do we articulate to the world why we're here, how we do business, what makes us different, because our people and our mission and our vision, I don't know, those are the underlying drivers of where we're going, and the brand's really that text and audio and visual articulation of that.
Yeah. I think a lot of what you're talking about really, if you do it the right way, it comes from the reason it resonates is because it comes from a place of authenticity. And I think people that, a lot of times marketers that are kind of challenged with, their company's brand is because it doesn't feel authentic.
Yeah.
What I like about a number of the exercises that you do is it really forces people just to kind of show their cards, and then you pull from that some truth.
Yeah.
It's not just a made up, we're going to put this vision statement on the wall. And
one of my things that drove me nuts over the years, I worked with a client, and we actually came in and redid their core values. Mm-hmm. So the reasons that people are on the bus or not on the bus. And it's funny, they actually had another brand marketing agency create core values for them. And I went through my process with them, and the funny thing is this agency, their approach was, what do we think the marketplace wants and what looks good? So it was funny, they had like community service as one of their core values. But you go in the company and you talk about the day in a life and the article, and you talk to the people about, what drives them and makes them passionate and what do they want to be doing every day. And the word community and service didn't come up. And that's not a negative. I mean, some businesses are just not about that. Mm-hmm. But it was just ironic to me that the approach of this other brand firm was, okay, let's just come up with some stuff that we think looks good to the marketplace. Well, if I'm hiring people and I'm going, I want to find Tony who fits my core values because I want people around like that, and community service is one of my core values, and you come to my business and you're thinking in your head, wow, these guys care about their community and they're going out and spending time at soup kitchens, and the reality is that's not true. That's horrible. You're bringing the wrong people on the bus. You're sending the wrong message to the marketplace. And if you're developing a brand and messaging about what makes you different, and if that's core pieces and the people that are on your bus, those are core pieces, but that's not where the founder is or the leadership team, you got a huge problem. And so I've seen this idea of core values, if they're not done right, if you don't really develop them in the right approach, you can create a disaster for your business, especially if you use them in the hiring process like you should. And so it is so important to do it right.
Yeah, it's going to just be incongruent in that, just drawing in the wrong people, and those people have their expectations are incorrect.
I mean, look at ours. You said that as soon as you went to our website that was something that resonated with you. But imagine if I had come up with a couple BS ones because I thought that's what the marketplace wanted. Then I've got people applying for my job that there's not that rapport and connection, versus bringing people in that if they see those core values, if they don't match them, they're going to be turned away. So it's kind of like the polarizing piece with brand is that, if you've got the right core values, the wrong people aren't even going to apply to your company. But if you have the right core values, you're getting better stock of potential employees. But then if you're actually measuring and saying, does this person hit on act bold, think smart, drive harder, open yourself, always innovate, these ones that are our core values, then if they hit on those, that is someone, when they come in, man, we're going to sync, and we're going to sync together, and we're going to grow this business because we're going to be on the same wavelength and align, especially towards a mission and vision that probably resonate with those core values as well. And so, we haven't talked about culture at all, but I could probably talk for hours about it. It's a huge piece.
Yeah. You make it sound so easy.
Done. Easy. Create some core values. The other piece is mission, vision. I think a lot of people mistake those. For me, vision is where do you want the business to be in the future, but I think it should be accomplishable and not too high level, just because you want to be able to have a place where you can say, we achieved this, and you can create a new vision for the next 5 years of your business. And then that mission statement is really like, what is the high level thing that all of your employees have to do every day to hit that vision? And it's not tactical like they have to show up at 8 o'clock. It's much more, hey, if we want to, our vision is to service a million customers in 5 years and change this industry. What do we need people to come in and think like or do from a really high level? And that's your mission. That gives people a reason to do that. And then, there's a couple others that you can add to culture that help bring the right people, get everybody aligned, get them inspired, which is a key piece. And then once you've got that culture defined, we create the brand, which we've been talking about. And now you've got this power of the right people on the bus, everybody's aligned in the same direction of where we're trying to go, and then you have a way to articulate to the marketplace who you are, what makes you different, and now you have that foundation that when we get into marketing, sales, customer experience, we have something that's solid and real and authentic and actually resonates with the best customers that we want to have, and that's where scale and growth starts happening.
Yeah, that helps, I think, really connect how brand and culture are tied together. It actually makes a lot of sense kind of as you explain that. Going back to the whole polarization, right? I think people worry sometimes about standing for something and going all in on something because of who it might push away.
Right.
But I think kind of like the,
our mugs.
Core values, yeah, like our mugs, but kind of like core values, it's also going to draw others towards you. Just like, the mugs, you want to tell them about the mugs?
Yeah, our mugs. Dave, can you bring us a mug?
Sure.
So we've got these mugs, we're going to show it in a second, but it says "fuck mediocrity" on it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, part of our vision and mission and our culture is, to obliterate mediocrity, complexity, and ambiguity. Thank you, sir. That's Dave. So if you don't see it, so our mugs, we hand them out, and there are people, and I actually think it's a small percentage that get offended by this. But on the reverse side,
we're losing
this mug,
subscribers right now.
We're losing a couple of subscribers. See, you guys. But on the reverse side, I get pictures from people, of this sitting in an office, and they say, "I saw your mug." People coming over and asking for more, and it's like for some people, the idea of "fuck mediocrity," mediocrity being something that you're just in the middle, you're not polarizing like we're talking about, and just generally being mediocre. We don't want that. And it's not just we don't like it, we hate it.
That's our enemy. I was just going to say, for people that resonates with, that's people that think that mediocrity is the enemy, right? And they're frustrated and they get it, and so they're not offended by the language because it's something that they believe in, and they say, I get you.
Right.
I want to work with you guys.
And that's why, I'll say it again, of what one of our driving factors is to obliterate mediocrity, complexity, and ambiguity. And that means a ton to me, because obliterate is the reason we say it that way is our job is to go in and destroy it, get rid of it.
Not reasonably surpass.
Not reasonably surpass, not go in and think about it, whatever it might be. But we go into a company and we don't want you to be mediocre. We're going to obliterate that. We're going to make you different. Talk about brand. We go in, and that's what we do is make sure that you stand out, and what makes you different stands out, and you are somewhat polarizing. Obliterate complexity. So for me, I love simplicity. Focus your market. Make sure that the way that you articulate what you do is very simple and easy to understand. And that goes across brand. Marketing should be simple. Understanding data, creating product, all of that should be simple, not complex. So we obliterate complexity, and then ambiguity is the other one, is that, part of developing a brand strategy is creating a flag in the ground saying this is who we are and what we do, and there's clear, articulate ways to communicate that. And that goes, again, across culture, brand, marketing. You don't want ambiguity. And so for me, that statement of obliterate mediocrity, complexity, and ambiguity truly describes, and talk about a mission statement, because that's what our mission statement is. If we have a vision to do something and people come in here and they say,